Oops. It just occurred to me that I can probably talk because my mic isn't muted. um, but if you can hear me, your mic is showing muted on here, so I don't know if you can click it and unmute it or if there's a issue. It won't let me unmute it for you.
Oh, did that work?
Yeah, it did let me
Oh,
unmute it.
I should have just taken the daggone headset off. Oh, it's always something. Sorry, everybody. Welcome to another night of Women's World of Fishing, a Monday night takeover. Oh man, one time we're gonna get it right. I think it's gonna happen.
It it might.
But yeah. So how are you doing, Angie?
I'm doing good. I'm still down here in Florida and just found out this afternoon that TakeMeFishing.org put out a blog in January, and they named the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast one of the top 9 outdoor podcasts. So that was
Nice.
pretty cool. Debbie Hansen shot me a text and let me know that, and so thanks Debbie for giving me a heads up. I hadn't even seen that, so and
That's
then
awesome.
yeah, and speaking of Debbie, we've got a cool girls trip coming up on Wednesday. We're going down to the Everglades, and Captain Deb Deo's coming up from the Keys, and Gabriella McGrath, and we're going to take a couple boats out and see if we can't get some peacock bass.
The Everglades.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list, and it's not going to be easy. There is a pretty big cold front coming in. We had a storm system, guess it was yesterday or the day before, and the temps have really dropped, and it's going to be like in the 40s overnight, which is pretty cold for
For
these
Florida.
Everglade, Florida peacock bass. So
Yeah,
we're
I don't know anything about peacock bass.
we're we're all up for the challenge. We're gonna go out there and see if we can't get it done. We're all kind of stoked.
That's
Um,
hot. Do you have your GoPro?
oh yeah, yep.
Oh,
I've got
good. Good,
I've
good.
got the GoPro. I've got another gimbal for my iPhone, and probably most certainly be doing some type of podcast episode talking about fishing after a cold front down in Florida.
Sweet.
So we're probably going to have to cheat and use some live bait. I mean, I think that's the only way we're going to be able to have any chance at any success. But when it starts to warm up in the afternoon, we might be able to get away with some finesse fishing with some soft plastics and stuff. So,
For peacock bass?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I don't know anything about them. So that would definitely be a lot of fun. Keep the GoPro rolling because you never know when you might get a good video of somebody yelling at an alligator.
Yeah, and there's definitely going to be some gators around. My
I Now is this mine or Angie's? Could somebody type in if Angie's got an okay connection? Okay. Yeah, I got a message that they can't hear you. Okay. She's going to reboot. That's okay. I do have hey Steven, hey Jennifer, hey Lou. Okay, I'll take 3 people. That's probably a good indication. I we do have some housekeeping to go over really quick, and one is super important. Um Over the next couple of weeks, we are going to be taking here she is.
the last time that happened, the only thing I knew was to go out and come back in. So
It worked.
okay,
It
yeah.
flipped us back the way it's supposed to be too.
What's that?
It flipped us the way it's supposed to be too. So, okay. So you were saying about the peacock fishing and
Yep. And then later in the week, after that day, I'm supposed to be going over the other coast and possibly doing some kayak fishing with Christine Fisher. So I will definitely be looking forward to that. And also a lady named Tracy who goes by Old Lady Angler on Instagram and YouTube. And she sounds like a great character to have on the podcast too. So looking
that's awesome.
forward. Yeah, I hope it all works out. Looking forward to that experience and learning a lot.
That's awesome. I mean, it's great to get some different exposure through the winter because those of
Mm.
us that aren't getting it are like, is it nap time?
Yeah.
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm getting stuff done, slowly getting ready for March, basically. That's really,
Yeah.
all we can do. So it's pretty boring. Um, right before you came back, everybody said they couldn't hear you. So I trust them. But I was getting ready to tell everybody what we had talked about, that about what we're doing with the streaming. So over the next 2 to 3 weeks, when you start not seeing us on, because I know a lot of people watch on Facebook, but when you start not seeing us on Facebook, make sure that you're checking our feed for YouTube because we're still going to be streaming. We're just going to be um, just on YouTube. That's the only place we're going to be. And the reason that we're going to do that is really to increase what we're giving to the anglers that come on here as guests and to increase the worth to the sponsors that they represent because people give their time to the show and their expertise, the information, and having their sponsors getting discount codes, but everybody's watching on Twitter and on Facebook, which is great, and we love the support, but it's not accurately reflecting what the actual viewership is because it's not combining all of all of the different views. That it doesn't actually track it all collectively. So we didn't want to just cut it off and everybody not be able to find us. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up that if all of a sudden you don't see us on Facebook, just keep watching for the YouTube. And it's Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Takeover. You'll hear that annoying voice in your head every Monday. So I mean, you've been hearing it, so you'll remember the name of it. But that way you can still find us. And honestly, it that's really what it is, we just want to make sure that when people give their time for us, them and their sponsors are getting back the most that they can. And that's really the only way to be able to prove to people, sponsors and stuff, that people are watching the show, is if everybody goes to the same place. So,
Well, that and, those of you that have been watching week after week and comment know that a lot of times we don't see comments come through
mhm,
on certain platforms. And so it's hard for us to try to watch all these different platforms at the same time to make sure that we're seeing the comments. And a lot of times we can't respond until after the fact when we go
right.
back and look at all the different feeds. And so having
Mhm,
it on YouTube is also going to make that a lot easier because it's just one place we can go and monitor
right.
and be more interactive that way.
Yep. Yeah, definitely, because we'll be able to do it during the show, and then also when we do go back, they're all in one place where it can just be a continual thing. That's a good point. It will be a
Hmm.
lot easier to manage. So, we'll keep you updated on that. Not sure exactly when I'm going to do it, but just eyes and ears open for that. Okay, so I did a video before the show to give everybody a like kind of a heads up, and then I found out that YouTube Shorts wouldn't allow you to share it like a normal video on Facebook. But this is how much of a response kind of the different interactions over the past week have been for this show. So I seriously doubt, I mean, depending on questions and stuff, that we're gonna get through all this. It really depends on you guys. Because I believe that there's going to be some companies from TikTok that wanted to come over, get feedback and give feedback, based on some of this. So, um, before we get started, I mean, Angie, anything like just in general that that you can think of? This is a huge topic, huge.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to jump into it. I get asked a lot of questions from people on Instagram and stuff, and I always try to be as helpful as I can. I think there's a lot of ambiguity on how certain sponsorships work. Like, I think a lot of anglers assume that when somebody has a sponsor that they're getting like this big check in the mail, and that's that's not always the case, and
Mm.
actually pretty rare, it seems. So I'm excited to maybe share our experiences and hopefully make some of that the ambiguous stuff a little more clear.
Clear, right? And when I was going through the different questions, I did kind of, because I've never outlined a show to this point, like to where I literally sat down and did an outline like I was in college. Um, but it will make it easier. And so the first thing I did is like, you know, when you decide that you're wanting to consider going after sponsorship, like you can't just, well, you could, but it's not recommended that you just go out and just start asking everybody, just anybody that you can get, like to come up with a plan, obviously. So like,
Hmm.
what kinds of questions, just naturally do you, to give yourself the best opportunity to really gain some sponsors, like what questions do you really got to sit down and like, okay, where do I start? And so with the very first one is, who do you go with? I'm sitting here and like, who am I going to start with? So like, walking through that, a lot of people were asking, like, okay, what brands should I go with? How do I know what brands to approach? Which brands are open to it? And so, just to give everybody a heads up, a lot of these things, in my opinion, I guess, and Angie, I'll let you um, answer after this since it's just my opinion. I think that this is um, probably a lot of it's subjective. I mean, a lot of it's gonna be preference to each angler. Each angler is probably going to approach it differently. I think there's a lot of things, because just the way the industry is going, I think there's been a lot of things that are changing, like as far as sponsorships. Hey Megan, I think there's just so much that's different now, if that makes sense. It's, you're not just competing with Gambler and Strike King and all these huge brands. Now you've got the smaller brands that are really competing for angler attention.
Hmm.
So again, a lot of these are, from me, my personal opinion, and anglers, I've have talked to several anglers over the past week. Questions, go in the comments. I'm willing to answer anything I can. So Angie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very important first question to ask yourself as you're starting the journey of getting sponsors, you want to go with somebody who you truly believe in, you resonate with that brand or product, what they stand for, and that aligns with how you want to represent yourself as an angler. And um one thing, like, recently I was approached by a company interested in adding pro staff, and it was a tungsten company, and they're just getting their off the ground, and I'm like, tungsten's expensive. Like, and I don't currently have an affiliation with a tungsten company, and so I was very interested. And when it came down to it, like, all they were able to offer was a 10 to 20% discount on product, which, yeah, every little bit helps, but when you also think about what you as an angler have to give in exchange for that discount, I couldn't do it. Maybe some other anglers can, they're in a different position, but so those are just some things, and we're probably going to talk more about that sort of stuff
Right.
down the road, but it's just really important that you align yourself with brands and companies that you personally believe in, because you are going to have to give a lot in exchange for that partnership. And if you align yourself with someone you don't really wholeheartedly resonate with, that's going to make it really difficult for
Mm-hmm.
you to do what you're supposed to do. And I think it's important too to go above and beyond, your minimum requirements with that company. And so to do that with somebody you're not 100% aligned with is just it just doesn't work.
Right. And I think, like, with the above and beyond, that's a great point, because that's how, in my opinion, that's how you surpass the other anglers that are, subpar, barely meeting requirements. That's how the owner remembers your name,
Mhm.
has your personal number, right at the top of the list. And so that's a great point. And one of the things that I always tell people is, like, go through your stuff. Who is it that is already, you've got, a bunch of packs of their stuff. You're constantly on Tackle Warehouse going straight to their brand. It's something that you use all the time, no matter what. Because if it's stuff that you're already using, then it's going to come natural to you. Like, when you reach out to that company, you know who they are. You can say, like, hey, I want a Gambler Flappy Daddy and green pumpkin watermelon candy, and please don't ever stop selling them. Like, um but it already gives you that edge, that it's something that you'll never stop using. um and like you said, things in alignment. I totally agree with that. um me Fun. I don't know who that is. Um, and then the somebody had asked, like, out of the brands, how am I going to know who I can represent with the most confidence? Again, that's going to come back to, I mean, nobody can really tell you, like, pick this one. That you can represent such and such company, you know, the best. I think that's going to be a personal call, but it's definitely one that I think you need to pay attention to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, because you might have to make the call, like you were saying with the tungsten company. Like, for you, that 10 to 20% discount wasn't, like, you couldn't put forth that effort for them because you had all, all this other stuff going on. For me, because tungsten is so expensive, I might have been like, you know what, 20% discount. I will take it and I'm going to put you right here. You get prime real estate on my jersey, or I'll take 50%, you get prime real estate. Like different things are going to mean different things to different people. But you definitely want to know what you can offer, and that's not just with time, but it's going to be um what you like, you know and again, that is going to be each individual angler.
Yep.
um do you have anything to add to that one? I think that one's pretty,
It's pretty
you know
straightforward, and I think, it is a logical, obviously, first step. You don't wanna just start running out
right.
willy-nilly, talking to anybody and everybody to
Mhm.
see, what sticks. I guess one thing I would add is, also don't when you're especially when you're first starting out, but and for, like, high school anglers and stuff, don't get stuck on only sponsors that are in the fishing world. There are so many
That's a great
companies out
point.
there that are excited to help sponsor a tournament angler in exchange for a spot on the jersey and, maybe some social media, whatnot. So, like, endemic sponsors, your local hardware store, just anything like that. Those are um, great companies to reach out to. They're not going to be only offering you more than likely not going to be just offering you a discount on product because it's not in the fishing world. They're probably going to give you some type of money to put towards your entry fees or other expenses. And so don't discount or not or ignore companies that aren't in fishing.
Mhm. And, yeah, I never even thought of that. That's an excellent point because it's not something that you really ever hear talked about very much. But I had an angler that, um, I kind of see her as a mentor, and she told me that, probably a month and a half ago, and she said, if you really want a financial sponsor, then then go outside of the fishing world. And we talked about different aspects of, why and everything, and it's something that I it never even crossed my mind, you
Hmm.
know. Um I don't know why, cuz I feel like I'm always trying to think outside of the box, and it never even occurred to me. Um
I
so
think
great point.
I saw a video that L. Lindner did a couple years ago, where he was, they're big supporters of youth, high school anglers and college anglers, and he had done a big video about that, and I was like, yeah, that's a really great point. And I do see a lot of our local college angler or high school anglers with, local companies and businesses that are sponsoring them.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, definitely something to look at.
Well, and I'm afraid that I'm going to forget this if I don't bring it out. And I saw that Megan just came in today. She told me, and this is another thing just to keep in mind because it's going to be brought up in a lot of the different sections. But I brought up to her about fishing, good for co-angler in March. Her TikTok fans ended up paying her entry fee for March.
Oh, wow.
Seriously,
Well,
I mean,
that's
like you
yeah.
never. I said, my Siri's talking to me because I said seriously. um, but you just never know when something like that can happen. Like, hey Richard, the she has had, like, she's built up such a platform, and and she's a newer angler. um I have to say it, Megan, she's super nervous about fishing it, and she had made a video, like, I'm, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fish my own, my first pro, and people just took to it. She's super likable, and people were just like, we want to donate to you fishing your first tournament, and she had her entry fee paid for.
That's cool.
And yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And it's her first one of the year, first pro tournament she's ever been in. And I I'm super super excited for her. And I really think that that's kind of a testament, and what I was saying in the beginning is to how things are changing in the industry. Because you can, um, the same one that I was talking about as far as money sponsor outside of the industry, this same woman was also telling me about having really high fishing credentials, but every company is saying, well, how many followers do you have?
Hmm.
Is it true?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It is.
The sad thing about that though is I wish that companies would look a little more closely at who those followers are, because
Yes.
there was a trend, and I don't know if it still happens. I'm sure it does, where people could buy followers, so you could boost your Instagram account up to 20,000 followers, but still
Right.
have these people aren't really interested in what you're doing.
Right.
And so you can't just look at the numbers. There's a thing that gosh, well, oh, it's called micro influencer. I don't know if you've heard that term, but these influencers that have a smaller following, say 1,000, 2,000, 2,500 followers, but they are all very engaged, like the
Right.
prime people that you want to have.
Yep.
And the power of a micro influencer sometimes is much
I
greater
totally agree with that.
than the ones that have the huge followings, because their followers just aren't really that
They don't.
interested.
Right. And you would think that it would be looked at a lot closer, like, okay, well, you have that many followers, but how many people are commenting? How many people are liking? How many,
Mhm.
um and some apps are like, I don't know much about Instagram, but I know that TikTok is working to decrease that.
Mm.
Um like it gets harder and harder to do that. Um, and if it would be fixed, it would be a lot better.
Mhm.
But I think that in the industry, it's just, oh, Megan says, I didn't even ask for it. She really didn't.
That's so
people
cool.
just people just wanted to. It's just the community. Um, but I think that it's kind of, if you look at it from the company's perspective and try to forget that you're an angler, and this is kind of what I was trying to do when I was putting all this together, is that their goal is to make money, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, they're into it, even if it's a side job or if it's a hobby full time. And no matter what platform it is, it's been proven over and over that the more followers, the more clicks, the more sales. Like, they go down so far to the analytics. Even on TikTok, Like it says, if you have this many likes, you should have this many followers or this many, and it almost always adds up. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but the opportunities that are available for anglers now is huge, which can be good, it can be bad. It depends on who you are. It depends on how hungry you are, and who you approach.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
and
I've been fortunate with the companies that I have affiliated with. They've all definitely looked at that aspect. I have the podcast too, so that's kind of a different whole element with me is that yeah, I fish tournaments. I'm, relatively new as this past year was my first year doing the LBAA. I did fish a local trail as a co-angler for a couple years, but I've got the podcast platform, and so that but, at that same token, gets won all these awards and whatnot, but it's not Joe Rogan or some huge podcast that gets tens of thousands of downloads. But when I share my data and stuff with people that I'm approaching to be sponsors, they look at that aspect really closely, the whole micro influencer part of it and how engaged is the following, and so I've been fortunate to find companies that do look at that, which has been
mhm,
great.
right. They look at the big picture,
Right.
where and it doesn't have to be so just on the surface. And I, I, I think that that is the most important. I think quality is so much better than quantity, you
Mm,
know, but the companies are individual too. And it just depends on which way of thinking that they go,
mhm,
and so I I mean it's tough. It's tough navigating the system. I'm not we're not trying to say like, "Oh, there's somebody out there, um just navigate to however that company goes or anything like that." Like be consistent for you and you will end up in the right place. I really believe that. If you stay true to you, you'll eventually end up with the right people.
mm.
Okay, so I saw Ashley Higgins. Hey, Barbara, I finally found you. We was talking on TikTok. Ashley, I'm reading your question. A 1v1. Oh, goodness. I have no idea what we were talking about. Do you know what a 1v1 is?
No, but she did make another comment saying a huge part of sponsorships is making content. I'm completely unknowledgeable about making content. When I'm fishing, I'm focused on fishing and not capturing an audience. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge. I've faced that challenge as well. One thing that's helped me this past year was the YOLO Tech, which is one of I've got listed as a sponsor really with them. Just to be candid, I have a discount code that if people use it, I get a percentage of whatever product people buy with YOLO Tech. But I really believe in their product, and what it is a stand for your GoPro or whatever action camera you have that goes into your light socket on your boat, and it keeps your device charged all day long. And so it makes it a lot easier to fish, focus on fishing, and not have to worry about, oh, is my battery dead? There's a really cool loop feature on almost all the action cameras, if not all of them, where it records. You can set it to however long, and it will record like the last 5 minutes. And so when you catch a fish, like saltwater anglers, they may want to set it a little longer because sometimes their fights are a lot longer than 5 minutes. But for bass anglers, typically you're not going to have a fight more than 5 minutes long. So you can set it to that. And then when you do have that action, once you're done, you've caught the fish, whatever, you turn your record off and that automatically saves the last 5 minutes. And so that just makes it so much easier. That's all you have to remember to do is to hit the stop button and then start it again. So it will start doing the loop. But that's made a big difference for me to be able to capture content and still be able to like really focus on what I'm doing.
And yeah, I mean, and I'm partnered up with YOLO Tech too. And I mean, I'm being totally honest. If you run a GoPro, it is worth its weight in gold because it
Mhm.
was so frustrating having to do batteries that barely ever lasted and wondering if it went out and you didn't hear the beep and did it catch that fish. And with the YOLO Tech, you know that it wasn't going to be a battery if it didn't catch something.
Mhm.
I actually just had a really big SD card and it just let it run all day. That way it would catch something funny. If I forgot to hit something, I knew that it had the whole day on it. And I just sit through these really boring, miserable days where I'm like, seriously? Like, sorry, Dad, you know how the days were. um, but you know, it is really hard to a lot of times in fishing, like to come up with content just off the fly. Especially for TikTok, trying to do the trends and the funny and all that stuff. TikTok is hard for fishing.
We ought to
Um,
do a show at some point on TikTok because I need to learn from you how to do it. I've posted like maybe 4 or 5 videos, and I'm just like, I went to the Outdoor Media Summit, and there was a TikTok creator that did a seminar there, and she said like she's had some very videos that have done very very well and have gone viral, and but she said it took her like however many hours to produce a 30-second TikTok video or whatever length it was. And I'm like, man, I just don't have that time. But
and it's not supposed to take you that long to make a TikTok video. And like the kids, the younger generation and stuff, it don't take them that long. But we're just a different niche on TikTok. Like we're teaching something. We're not just like dancing and throwing glitter in the air or stuff like that they do. We're like, okay, now I've got to take this trend and how do I throw a fish in there? And now I got to twirl and dance and do this too. And I got to sing. Yeah, I mean, they're not all like that, but like you actually have to put thought into it and try to be creative or you're going to die on TikTok. That's just the way that it is.
mhm.
Um, and you got to keep people's interest like constantly engaged. And so it is tough, but the lives on TikTok are, I mean, they're a lot of fun because uh, it's kind of like the bar night after work. Like it's more laid back and it's just where you can meet with a lot of people at once because you're able to go on each other's feeds and stuff like that. So it has its purpose, you know, but you still got to be careful. You're going to find a lot of supporters on TikTok. Some people are going to get entry fees paid. So
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
kidding. Just
it's
kidding, Megan.
amazing.
It's awesome. Um, Ashley, okay. Now I totally remember. I remember your name on TikTok now. And yes, I was fishing at the pond. I think you left before. Steven. Um,
Is that true?
yes and no. um,
Share what
Not
he
a,
said. So everybody.
oh, sorry. The Steven says, and you will get put in TikTok jail if you show actually catching a fish. It's against community guidelines. TikTok has really, really strict community guidelines, and anybody can turn you in for anything. I don't want to say this because you never know who's watching that hates you, but I don't think I have any haters out there anymore. Mine kind of floated away. Um, but if you have somebody that really, really hates you, they can turn in every single video that you have. And so people can say that's animal abuse
Mm.
because it's against TikTok guidelines to abuse an animal. You know, I had somebody from PETA one time. I took a bass. I could only get so close to the bank, and I was standing up a little, so I gave it a little toss. I didn't throw it from the Empire State Building, and I just barely tossed it into the pond. And it had to have been somebody from PETA, and they complained on the video that it was abusive. So people can complain for stuff like that, and if they choose, then they can have it, they can take it down. um so some people just have haters, and they can make your life hell on TikTok, just put it that way. um
Or not even haters, probably just people that are bored and have nothing better to do.
Yes, and those a lot of times are your haters, because if somebody has that enough time, like that much time to sit there and turn in all your videos, they're living a very sad life. So if I get a hater now at this point because I've said that, I'm just going to tell you right now, I think I feel really bad for you, because you have a very sad life if you're just trying to get me in TikTok jail. For you too, Angie. Like, that's just horribly sad. But it does happen. Um and so oh, okay, Ashley, Barbara, the day you was live on TikTok, we talked about doing a oh, okay. Okay, I know what it was. I was fishing live at the pond, and and we had talked about a bunch of us doing a live tournament on TikTok. I mean, everybody in different places and stuff. Um, and so that's what I was talking to her
Hmm,
about.
that's an interesting idea.
Because you can, like, you all are live in the same place, so you could see if, what the other people are doing and everything. But yeah, it would suck for me right now. The water temperature is like in the upper 30s, and people like Steven and Stephanie are in Texas. And
Hey, our guys back in Nashville are killing it right now. I'm actually a little bit jealous. I mean, the bass are eating like crazy.
really, what's the
Yeah.
water temperature there?
That's a good question. I don't know, but we had snow, quite a bit of snow, and it's been cold. So I imagine it's down there. Probably not as cold as quite as cold as where you are, but
But still, maybe I
we're not
need.
that far away. So
I mean, we just got an ice storm with quite a bit of ice with a little bit of snow. So I ain't going out now, but maybe I need to try and go back out again
maybe.
in March. Okay, so when you decide who it is you're going to talk to, clearly you have to know what you're going to say. So this is oh dear. What I do, and again, like I said, this is everybody with their own approach. I always start off obviously by introducing myself, but I inquire as to whether or not they are seeking um people to for pro staff, for sponsorship, or for anything like that. Like, I want to know um what it is they're offering, if anything, because it's kind of going to dictate how I go about, like the next step. Um and then more often than not, because I know that I am talking to a company either that's approached me or that I am already using, I'm pretty much that telling them that I'm going to market for them anyway, that I'm going to advertise for them anyway. Um because I do. and and then just flat out ask them, like, you know, do you think that I could benefit you guys? Like, do you think there's a way that I can be beneficial to, and then whatever their company is? But I think that needs to be right after your intro. You need to put them in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you wanna approach it in such a way that you're concerned about how you can benefit them versus what they're gonna give you
Mhm.
as a starting point. Obviously, there's gonna be a give and take. You're not gonna well, I mean, people will promote companies that they're not actually sponsored just because they do believe in their product. But as you know, as an official sponsor, there's always
Right.
a give and take there. So, but yeah, I think it's always important to approach it in such a way that you're letting them know that you're the value that you have for them, and to see if they're interested in discussing a potential partnership. I like to call it partnership. I think some of our guests have mentioned that in the past over sponsorship. Nowadays, anyways, used to be the word was sponsorship, but I feel like we're kind of gravitating more towards calling it a partnership because there's a give and take. It's not a company that's just giving you something for free out of the kindness of their hearts. Like,
Right.
they want something in exchange from you. And so, with like Lance Truck Camper, for instance, it's a marketing partnership, and they have done amazing for me. They've shared so much content and helped me grow the podcast so much, because of their platform, and sharing. And hopefully they feel that, I think they do, because we're approaching, again in 2022. So I hope they feel that I've done just as much, if not more, for them on the flip side.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good starting point. um I've never gone about it the way that you do, in that I'd say, I'm gonna promote you anyway. Like, I get that.
Mhm.
I've just never come out and said that.
I
So
mean, I I pretty much do, because I've at that point I've already been promoting them. Maybe not hardcore, but on
right.
some level I've already done videos and tags and pictures. Um, I mean, I don't sell it like I don't care. I'm gonna, it's basically my way of saying I'm not gonna turn into a hater. I can accept not being told no.
Right.
You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's kind of that. Um,
Mhm.
but I I really like to get those companies that I know that I'm going to use no matter what, because it that's just what is so easy for me. you know um and I feel like after I kind of throw that down and word it that way, that the ball is kind of in their court, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna let you know pretty quick what, are they looking, are they not looking? Somebody, I'm not sure who this is.
It
Um,
says a Facebook user because
yeah.
you have to allow StreamYard to be able to see your information for us
Oh,
to have your name, but don't see it on any of my posts.
do
But
you want to read it?
yeah, so they said a lot of companies have pro staff but don't advertise that they're looking for more because they don't want to be flooded with inquiries daily, which is understandable. So if you like a company and you want to work with them, it never hurts to reach out. And if they like you, a lot of them will find a way to work with you. So one of my mottos has always been, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
That's
And
true.
I mean, I live by that, and it's done a lot of good for me. So I definitely agree with that comment. And yeah, they get bombarded probably daily anyways, regardless if they say they're looking for pro staff or not. Um, that being said, I've kind of noticed a trend in my limited experience, but it seems like companies are kind of always looking in the fall as they're kind of looking ahead toward the next year and planning out what their pro staff is going to look like for
Mhm.
the upcoming year. So I've always kind of found that reaching out during the fall is a good time. And then the other thing I want to mention is I put one of the things I learned very early on is to put together a fishing resume, which is, and I don't know, Barbara, if you've got this in your notes. Okay.
I
Um,
do.
okay. So I've taken it a step further and I actually put together a media kit because I have the podcast. So, it covers all my socials, numbers, what tour I'm fishing, where we're going, all that kind of information. But I found because these companies get reached out to often on a daily basis, if it's not somebody I already developed or have been working on a relationship, like I met them in person at ICAST or Bassmaster Classic or somewhere, and we've already been talking, if it's just somebody that I've been like, man, I would really love to work with this company or get on their pro staff, um, I'll often just reach out with my media kit already attached because their time is so valuable. They don't have to then reach back out to me and say, "Oh, well, can you send me some more
Mhm.
information?" They already have it. And so I'm just cutting that time down
Right.
a little bit for them.
And that's, yeah, that's a great point. I have on there because there was a, where is it? Resumes, social media kits, and the social media accounts. And actually, for the social media kit, that's because I remember you dealing with that last year. Um, and it's, I know it's pretty involved, and I don't think it ever hurts an angler to have one of those in hand.
Mhm.
And I found some of the, like, Canva, it has, a really good
Templates.
template. Yeah,
Mhm.
and they're pretty easy to find on social media where, um, it kind of walks you through some of the pinpoint things to include. So you could always have one of those, or a basic resume. And it's not even required. I mean, I haven't had to fill one out. I've had to give my information, obviously, but I haven't actually been asked to do a resume. So I don't have one. I should, but I don't. Full disclosure. um, Fall and early winter is when they start looking at their budget for the upcoming year. Yeah, we probably should have done this show a while back. And, I was because we're getting on the deadline for jerseys, for this year. And then I just started thinking of it like, maybe we ought to do that show. I guess we should have done it a lot earlier.
Well, now people can just start planning for next year.
True. Or they could go ahead and do it for this year and keep in mind for budgeting for next year. And I'm pretty sure that Angie will agree with me. But before you start getting sponsors on board or partners on board or any of the deals that you have cut right now, how much stuff did you do for free?
Mm-hmm.
I've done a whole lot of free stuff before anybody even knew who I was, because I never looked in the future and saw me doing a Monday night show or oh my Lord, ever saw me making a TikTok video ever. I didn't see me with an Instagram, with a Twitter. I mean, one of my sponsors several years ago made me get the Twitter, made me get the Instagram, so I didn't envision this. And I had already been doing my own version of the marketing and the advertisement because I loved my Six Skill stuff. Like, I really loved their rods, and I'm like, man, why are you guys not getting your buy one get one free? Like, you get a birthday discount. Just give them your birthday. Don't buy anything. Just give them your birthday. I mean, it was just stuff like that. And so then, as time went on and the more that I shared and the more that I learned about the industry, like, oh, you mean like I can like do more posts and then start like asking for stuff? And I think that I know I worked really hard and did a lot of stuff for free on and off. And when I say free, I'm not meaning like money wise free. I mean industry type free, if that makes sense, because you have to build trust, reliability. I need to come up with a list because I can't do it off the top of my head, but you got to build your character. And I don't mean I'm Bassengal, that's my character. No, that's a persona. Like, I'm talking about trustworthy, reliable, and your commitment, your work ethic. Like, they don't have to worry about me, having my jersey on and getting in a fist fight down in Texas. Well, maybe in Texas, but not in Arkansas.
Or
I don't know.
having your jersey on or not having your jersey on.
Right. And that's why we say on and off the water. Like, like they have to be able to know you, to trust you. And it takes time,
Mhm.
That's why we tell kids in high school, like, just like be professional now. On like, that's always my word of advice. Be professional now. I know it's hard. You're in high school. You're supposed to make mistakes. Just keep it as clean as possible, because everybody's gonna go back as far as they can. They want to know what kind of person you are. I
Mhm.
mean, legitimately,
Yeah.
it's tough, but you're representing other people. And so that's, they're going to go back and see, are you bad mouthing your previous people that you no longer work with? My old jerseys, are on my social medias, it's not like people can't go back and look
Mm-hmm.
at who I had in the past. Can they see me bad mouthing any of them?
I would say no.
Right.
But yeah, you
No,
don't
they
want
can't.
that. Yeah.
Right. And there's just so much to it when it comes to little things like that that you really don't think of, you know. Some of what was Steven says, Ashley, they don't want anglers representing a competitor of theirs. Example, Strike King versus Rapala.
I think he was just giving an extra tip, like, that's the other thing to think about when you're looking at your sponsors. You don't want 2 different tungsten sponsors.
Right.
You need to really look at, like, I have St. Croix, they're my rod sponsor. I wouldn't also wanna go with another company that, manufactures rods
Right.
because that would be a conflict. So yeah, that's something else that you wanna look at. It gets a little gray sometimes. I mean, there's companies that make a lot of different products,
Mhm.
and in that case, maybe you can kinda, cross the line a little bit there, but you gotta be careful with that.
I was in that situation last year. With I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I am a diehard six skill fan. Every single rod that I have is a six skill. Not gonna lie. Um, and when another sponsor was coming on, um, they they really wanted to, I don't want to say constrict, but there was some discussion and different things. And I had flat out told him, I'm like, look, I love your company. I've been using your company. Look at all the products that you guys have. Like, don't don't discount me just because I have a rod and reel company that I'm representing. Like, don't discount me just because of that. Like, look at all this stuff that you sell that I have to be a continual buyer of, you know, baits and hooks and line and storage. I mean, it was just endless. And I'm like, so don't judge me just based on that. Like, please. I mean, I was begging, it was like gonna be a conflict for them, but I wanted it so bad that I fought for it, and it worked out. But sometimes, it's both sides. Like, they've got to fight for what they want. You're going to have to fight for what you want. Um, and, we've barely touched the surface on these.
We're like 2 questions in.
hmm this is what, but you know what, though? Honestly, I had no idea how much people really were wanting to go over this, because this is condensed.
Right.
um, we still have to, which we did touch on this. Um, and then, so when we go over the what can I offer versus what do I want, then it's kind of how that transitions into, okay, what do I want versus what do I need? Um, because each individual angler has to make that decision, in case it doesn't work out with the what can I offer versus what do I want. It's breaking that down. And then we won't have to spend, a lot of times on the resume, the social media kits and the social media accounts. Um, and then just so people can kind of be thinking about this, some of the most important factors in gaining sponsors. Um, I think some of these might surprise some people. I don't know. We'll see. And then jersey development, logos, and merchandise. If anybody is like actually working on jersey development right now, send Angie or I a contact. We can give you contacts for who we had our jerseys made by if you're kind of on a rush for that. Otherwise we'll go over that next week. Because we both love our designers and we actually have different ones.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored by our jersey makers
No.
either. But we definitely want to give them a shout out because we absolutely love them and don't know what we would do without them. So if you need it before then, reach out to us, let us know. We'll give you the information, or we will go over that next week.
Absolutely. Or we could just share it real quick right now. Before we sign off, if somebody, because this is kind of crunch time right now.
Yeah.
Some people may be past it already, but I was turned on to a company called Wildwear America last year by Terry Sindrick. I was in a crunch time situation last year, and she was too, and so she said, "Hey, they can get this done for you in the time frame that you need." They're made in the USA, family-owned business. Amanda Tarr is my contact there, so if you are interested, I can connect you with her. But I'll just share. Wait, who is it? I shared yours. Sorry.
No,
Wildwear
that was
America.
me.
Yeah, wildwearamerica.com is the website for them. And then Barbara, you can definitely give a shout out to your.
I put the mine is Numa Designs by Lloyd Bell. That was
Sandra.
me.
There we go.
But it posts as
Yeah. There you go.
as
Bass and
both of us.
Galbo.
And I'm just afraid if I said Numa Designs, nobody would know how to spell it or anything.
Right.
So, but I'll make sure to to put it up so everybody can find it as well. Yeah, we are getting really close. I have to have mine in by February 1st.
Mhm. Probably need mine a little sooner than that. I'm trying to give them 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Megan, I'll give you the information and let you know. And you can buy my jersey. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. For tuning in. I know that we just got a little bit through the information. If you have follow-up questions or anything, go ahead and send them to the show. We'll add that to the list. I know how important. We're all looking for help. Fishing is not cheap. We know that. Not at all. I mean, it really ain't. So any help we can get as anglers is worth the time to figure out how to get it. And then we definitely want to help you do that. So, just let us know if we can add anything to the list. Otherwise, we will see you guys next Monday at 8:00. So, all right. Do you have anything else, Angie?
Nope. Hope everybody got a little bit of value out of it. Thanks everybody who stuck with us. I know it was a little long, but hopefully, good information, and we'll share some more next week and go from there. So everybody have a great week and tight lines.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week. Mwah.